They say some frequencies were never meant to be found. Buried beneath military signals, Cold War codes, and dead air, there's a whisper that travels through wires and waves. And if you listen long enough, it listens back.
Ethan Marlowe didn't believe in the paranormal. A 43-year-old radio technician from Nevada, he preferred circuits over superstitions, wavelengths over whispers. His garage was a shrine to outdated tech, racks of old receivers, dusty transmitters, coils of tangled copper wire. A place where time stood still and signals still spoke. That night, it was 1:12 a.m. The air was dry. The desert outside was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan was scanning through old shortwave bands on a vintage Kenwood R5000. He called it ghost fishing, listening for forgotten broadcasts from decades past, old spy transmissions, Morse code, number stations. But what he heard that night wasn't from this earth.
At first, it sounded like nothing, just interference. Then the pulses grew more organized. 3 slow beats, silence. 2 quick ones, silence. Repeat. It wasn't Morse. It wasn't random. He leaned in, adjusting the dial. 1420 megahertz, a frequency once used in deep space SETI projects. But this one wasn't coming from the stars. It was stronger, closer. Then came the sound. It wasn't human. It wasn't machine. It was something else. The voice, no, the presence behind the signal felt like it was reaching through the static, like it knew it was being heard.
Ethan's chest tightened. He recorded the signal, analyzed the waveform. There it was, a name. His name. He froze. Impossible. No one could have known he'd be scanning that frequency. No one could embed a name that deep into an audio signal with such clarity. Unless it was intentional. Unless it was personal. He turned off the radio, but the whisper continued, faintly, from a turned-off speaker across the room.
He disconnected the power, pulled every plug in the garage. Total silence. Still, as he stood there, the humming began, low and internal, behind his ears, like tinnitus, only rhythmic. He couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw not images, not dreams, but shapes, symbols, rotating geometries etched in green and white static, pulsing like veins. He told himself it was stress, lack of sleep, audio pareidolia. He was wrong.
Over the next few days, Ethan became obsessed. He cleaned the recording, ran it through signal decryption tools. Hidden beneath the noise, a geographic pattern, coordinates. An unlisted point on the map. No roads, no structures, just emptiness. He posted on obscure forums, asking if anyone else had heard the signal. Only one response came back. Turn back. Some frequencies are echoes of something that never left. Username? Signal Eater. He didn't turn back.
2 days later, he drove out to the coordinates, camera in hand, signal scanner active. What he found wasn't a building. It was a crater, shallow, about 30 feet wide. In the center, a metallic object half buried in earth, old, rusted, covered in strange etchings. He touched it. The scanner went wild. Every device he had shorted out simultaneously. Then silence. Then the voice again. But not through the radio, through his mind. "We remember you."
That night, Ethan didn't dream. He screamed. Neighbors reported inhuman shrieks coming from his house at 3:17 a.m. When they knocked, he didn't answer. When police arrived, the house was empty. Lights flickering, radios playing by themselves. Every wall covered in drawings, spirals, patterns, alien glyphs, all in black marker, and one phrase repeated over and over: frequency is memory, memory is home.
Ethan was never seen again. His truck was found abandoned 8 miles from the crater. Inside was only the broken receiver and a final audio tape. Investigators labeled it a mental breakdown, but the last recording told a different story.
Ethan's voice, trembling. "If anyone finds this, don't listen to it. Don't follow the signal. They're not trying to communicate. They're trying to return. And I think I opened something. I think they were buried here, and now they remember us, and they're coming home."
The house was sold. New owners came and went, but the signal stayed. Neighbors still report odd transmissions bleeding into their TVs, voices on baby monitors, static in dead zones that hum just a little too loud. And every few years, someone picks up the frequency. Sometimes it's a technician. Sometimes it's a child. Sometimes it's you. So the next time your radio catches static and something pulses just beneath the noise, ask yourself, are you listening, or are they listening to you?
There are towns that appear on maps, but not in memory. Places with names, but no people. And when you arrive, all that greets you is silence. Unless something else is waiting.
After the events of the frequency, a pattern had begun to form. A new anomaly hidden inside the waveform Ethan had captured. It wasn't just sound. It was layered with something else. Coordinates, yes, but also words. One word repeated across the signal at irregular intervals. Darnmore. Ethan couldn't find it in any database. No town in Nevada or anywhere in the US carried that name, except on one map. A declassified topographic survey from 1972, dusty and forgotten in a university archive, showed a dot labeled Darnmore, just south of Black Rock Desert. But modern satellite images? Nothing. Just barren land. It wasn't just lost. It had been erased.
Ethan drove out early morning. No paved roads, only cracked paths barely visible in the desert dust. As he moved deeper, cell signal died. Compass needles twitched. Static began bleeding into the car's speakers, even though the radio was off. After 4 hours of desolation, he found a rusted sign, mostly buried in sand. It read, "Welcome to Darnmore, Pop 481. There were no buildings, no roads, no sign of human life. But there were foundations, cement outlines where homes should have stood, lampposts broken and rusted, an empty water tower with the word Darnmore barely visible beneath peeling paint. It wasn't a ghost town, it was a missing one.
As Ethan walked deeper into the ghost of a town, he felt watched. Then he saw them. Figures, human shapes, frozen in mid-motion. completely gray like ash, life-sized, dozens of them. At first, he thought it was some kind of art installation, but as he got closer, he realized they weren't sculptures. They were remains, bodies turned to ash in perfect detail, mouths open mid-scream, fingers reaching upward, faces twisted in terror, and none of them had shadows.
Ethan's portable scanner began to vibrate uncontrollably. The signal had returned, stronger than ever. He pulled out his recorder. This time, the message wasn't just a whisper. It was a clear phrase, looped again and again. "We have always been here. This is not your land. This is not your sky." Then static. Then something else. A scream. Not from the recorder, from the ash statues.
Ethan turned. All the statues had shifted. Some were now facing him, arms pointed at him, heads tilted in unison. He ran, tripped over cracked pavement, fell beside what once might have been a school. Through the broken window frames, he saw drawings still pinned to blackened walls, children's sketches, but they weren't of families or pets. They were of eyes, large, black, surrounded by red static, hovering above the town. In every drawing, the sky bled downward, and people below melted like wax.
Inside the crumbling school, Ethan found something miraculous. A reel-to-reel tape recorder, still intact. Next to it, a dusty tape labeled Evacuation, August 14th, 1972. He played it. Woman's voice. "They told us it was radiation, but there was no heat, no warning. The sky opened, the stars screamed. My husband stood up and vanished, just vanished into light. They said the signal was just static, but he grew louder, louder until…" Ethan stared at the recorder, breath shaking. Something had happened in Darnmore. Something unnatural. Something silenced.
As the sun began to fall, the shadows lengthened unnaturally fast. And that's when he saw them. Silhouettes. Tall, still, too thin to be human. At the edges of the town, watching. Their heads tilted slightly, like they were studying him. And as darkness fell, the air grew thick with vibration. Not sound, but resonance. His teeth buzzed, his bones ached. They were calling, not with voices, but with memory.
Ethan fled, ran to the truck. The ash figures were now fully turned, all watching. No wind, no movement, just oppressive silence. As he drove away, his rearview mirror cracked without impact. Behind him, Darnmore vanished again, literally, like a veil pulled over the land. One moment, there. The next, gone. No coordinates worked. His map erased itself. His recordings degraded into white noise. Except one file.
Back in his home, Ethan opened the last file saved on his corrupted recorder. Then, "You've heard it now, so they've heard you." Then a tone, exactly 33.33 seconds long. When played through a spectrum analyzer, it formed an image, a map, not of Earth.
They said Darnmore never existed, that the government never sanctioned a town in that sector, that the crater was just a sinkhole. But those who search deeper find ashes in the wind and hear names whispered in wires. Darnmore didn't disappear.
It was taken back. A settlement on land that was never ours to begin with, built over something ancient, something waiting. And now it remembers us, through signal, through sound, through you. So if tonight your radio flickers and a name you've never heard before pulses through statics, maybe that name is yours. Dawn Moore has been removed from all official maps since 1972. If you have any information, please contact authorities immediately.
The human mind is fragile. When it hears things it shouldn't, it breaks. When it remembers what was meant to be forgotten, it shatters. Some voices speak in words, others in static.
Since returning from Darnmore, Ethan hadn't left his house. Every window was covered, every mirror turned to face the wall. His living room was now a command center of old tech, CRT monitors, analog radios, wave analyzers, hand-drawn maps of signal paths. He wasn't trying to listen anymore, he was trying to stop hearing. But it didn't matter, because the signal had followed him home.
It started subtly. His microwave clicked on by itself. The clock radio glowed 3:33 a.m. every night, even when unplugged. His laptop turned off, would display a flashing waveform, green and red, dancing like a heartbeat. And behind it, the voices. Not loud, not clear, but present. A choir of whispers embedded inside silence. And once he heard them, he couldn't unhear.
In desperation, Ethan returned to the obscure forum where he once saw the username Signal Eater. The thread was gone, deleted, scrubbed from archives. But a private message was waiting. You brought it back with you. It doesn't need the transmitter anymore. You are the signal now. If you want answers, listen at 4:04 a.m. on Channel 0. There is no Channel 0. But Ethan built it anyway.
He rigged an old receiver, bypassing standard bands, created a closed loop, a dead channel, literally tuned to 0. At exactly 4:04 a.m., the signal surged. His equipment caught fire. A metallic scream tore through the speaker. Not a sound, but the feeling of being peeled open. The waveform on the screen twisted into a shape. Not a face, not a word. An eye, blinking, watching. Then came the whisper. Static is language. You are fluent now.
Ethan's last connection to the world was Carter, a fellow technician and skeptic. He called Carter, tried to explain what he was hearing. Carter laughed it off, until the call dropped. A burst of static cut through, then a scream. Not Carter's, Ethan's. Played back to him, distorted but unmistakable. Ethan rushed to Carter's house. The door was open. The TV was on, but no picture, just a white screen. And inside that glow, shadows moving. Not on the screen, inside it. Carter was gone. All that remained was a single sticky note on the fridge. Turn the volume down. They hear better when it's loud.
Ethan started recording everything. He analyzed background noise from his appliances, from the air vents, even from the hum of his own refrigerator. Within every frequency, he found whispers. Sometimes single words, other times fragments of thoughts. But they all had one thing in common. They spoke as if watching him. He knows now. He's not supposed to remember. Remove the host. And then, one night, a new voice joined. His own.
saying things he never said, answering questions he never heard. A two-way conversation between himself and something else.
Ethan's reflection no longer matched his movements. He blinked. The mirror version didn't. He turned away. It kept watching. Footsteps echoed behind him, even when he stood still. His own voice, faintly audible in the background of his recordings, began saying different words than what he remembered speaking. Reality felt unstable. The lines between observer and observed blurred. He realized the voices weren't just watching. They were rehearsing him, copying him, mimicking his thoughts, preparing.
One night, a cassette appeared on his desk. Old, dirty, unlabeled. He didn't remember placing it there, but his handwriting was on it. He played it. His own voice. "This is not a dream. You will forget this again. The static cleans memory. Every time you hear it, it scrubs you a little more. You've recorded this before. You've lived this before. But they won't let you remember twice." The tape ended with a sequence of tones. He matched them to a coordinate. Not on Earth.
The next morning, Ethan went to the local grocery store. The world felt wrong. Everyone he saw, the cashier, the customers, the woman with the crying child, they all moved just slightly off beat, like actors waiting for a cue. Their eyes didn't focus. Their mouths moved, but the speech came half a second too late. And when he tried to speak to one of them, they all turned at once, smiled too widely, and said in unison, "We're still buffering." Back home, Ethan realized it wasn't just about him anymore. The frequency was spreading. His neighbor's dog barked at the walls. Children screamed at playgrounds where no one else heard anything. Emergency broadcasts interrupted cable with cryptic warnings and alien glyphs for milliseconds at a time. And in the background of everything, the whispering static, like a broadcast just below human perception. He tuned every device to it, every speaker, every radio, and for a second, they synchronized. Then, a single, unearthly voice, "You're now transmitting." There are voices that no human should ever hear, not because they're forbidden, but because they're hungry. The static isn't noise, it's intention, language for a species that communicates through frequency, thought, and fear. And now that Ethan speaks it, so do his recordings, his uploads, his story. And if you've listened this far, you've already heard too much. So tell me, what's that sound under your fan, under your fridge? That faint hum when everything else is off? Is it just static? Or is something listening back? The deeper you hear, the less you forget. Next broadcast, 3:33 a.m. Some beings don't break into your home. They break into your dreams. They peel back your mind, one layer at a time. And when they wear your skin, no one can tell the difference. Ethan hadn't slept in days. The whispers had infected his nights. He would close his eyes and see shapes, not just flashing symbols, but moving geometry, rotating, folding inward, opening like wounds. Then, for the first time in nearly a week, he slept, and the nightmare began. In the dream, he was back in his room, but everything was off. His books were melting, his walls were breathing, and in the corner of the room, something stood.
Tall, thin, its skin was missing entirely. Red muscles exposed, pulsing like jelly beneath harsh light. It had no eyes, only black sockets that stared anyway. Its mouth was sewn shut, yet Ethan could hear it speak. A voice inside his head. I see your thoughts. They wear easily. It stepped forward, not walking, sliding, like tape being rewound. And when it touched him, he woke up screaming.
He sat upright in bed. But something was wrong. His shirt was soaked in blood. His chest burned. He ran to the bathroom and pulled up his shirt. 5 long, red scratches down his sternum, like claw marks. Fresh, deep, precise. Not a dream, not imagined. The skinless one had touched him.
Days passed. The dreams grew worse. He stopped leaving the house. Every time he blinked, he saw the creature's form flickering in the shadows, like it was phasing in and out of this world. Then came the symbol, burned into his wall. He hadn't done it. It hadn't been there yesterday. A circle with an eye inside. No pupil, just a spiral spinning counterclockwise. And underneath, written in black soot, you were chosen to wear the static.
Ethan began recording his sleep. He set cameras, sensors, microphones. The first night, nothing. The second, flickering. The third, his camera caught something. At 3:03 a.m., his body levitated 2 inches off the bed. His mouth opened, and a voice, not his, spoke in reverse. We unzipped the world from inside. At the edge of the frame, a figure, tall, featureless, but when zoomed in, red muscle, no skin. The skinless one had arrived. Ethan began losing time. He'd wake up in different parts of the house. Once, outside, barefoot, bleeding, and smiling. His recordings showed him writing phrases on the wall while in a trance. The body is an antenna. Remove the mind. Leave the shape. He is inside now. And in every clip, that same shadow, watching from corners, never moving, like a sentry waiting for orders. One night, he woke up screaming again. This time, not from pain, but from sound, a skin-tearing sound. Wet, slow, deliberate. He looked in the mirror. His left arm was pale, almost transparent, veins visible, skin thinned out like plastic wrap stretched too far. When he touched it, he heard a whisper directly beneath his fingers, not in his ears, under the skin. 1 layer down, 9 to go. That night, he set up a full-spectrum camera. Infrared, UV, electromagnetic tracking. At 2:47 a.m., something stepped into view. The skinless one, now fully visible. It crouched beside Ethan as he slept, inspecting him like an insect. It tilted its head, lifted a hand, pressed its finger against Ethan's forehead, and then split open its own chest, revealing a swirling void where organs should be. Inside, images, faces, his own, as if it had absorbed him before. When Ethan watched the footage, he paused the moment the creature opened itself. Inside the frame-by-frame playback, he noticed a terrifying detail. The video contained a screen. That screen played another version of the same video. Inside that,
the same, over and over, infinite loops. And in the innermost layer, a still image of Ethan's house burning, him standing outside, smiling, holding a skin that looked like his own.
He tried to flee. Packed up, drove north, left everything behind. The further he got, the weaker the signal grew. But the dreams remained. Worse now, the skinless one no longer waited for him to sleep. He began seeing it in reflective surfaces, glass, water, even his rear-view mirror. And then, one night, it spoke aloud, no longer confined to the mind. You are no longer wearing your skin. You are wearing mine.
There are things older than stars, not born, not created, just waiting. Some of them wear thought like clothing. Others wear flesh. The skinless one didn't come to harm. It came to inhabit. And Ethan? He's not hiding anymore. He's watching, smiling, broadcasting. So if you see someone who looks familiar, who speaks in your voice, but whose eyes are just a bit too wide, don't listen when they whisper, or soon you'll be wearing something else too. The body is a signal tower. What it transmits is no longer yours. There are channels you're not supposed to watch, frequencies you're not meant to hear, because once your mind syncs with the signal, you stop being a viewer, you become a part of the broadcast.
Ethan's electronics began to behave differently. His phone rang, even with no SIM card. Landline voicemails appeared with no caller ID, just recordings of static and distant breathing. His laptop booted itself at 3 a.m. every night. The screen displayed only 2 words, "Wake up!" One night, every screen in his house, monitor, tablet, even his digital oven display turned on at once, and in all of them, his face appeared, but blinking, out of sync, mouth moving, but no words coming out, just distorted laughter.
He began to test the signals again, built a modified receiver to isolate dead channels, frequencies officially unused or legally restricted. At exactly 2:22 a.m., channel 137 appeared. It should have been empty. Instead, it showed video footage, grainy, black and white, of him sleeping, then walking through his own house, then staring directly into the lens. But he wasn't holding a camera. He was smiling. Behind him, in the corner, the skinless one.
When Ethan tried to save the footage, the file corrupted instantly. But a sound remained. He isolated it, a waveform with no traditional structure, until he noticed the waveform mirrored his own brain scan perfectly. He uploaded it to a private drive. Moments later, every device in the house powered down, then rebooted with a new background, a spiral made of veins and wire, and a text overlay. This is your mind on the channel.
Desperate for help, Ethan visited his sister. She hadn't seen him in months. But when she opened the door, she gasped. "Ethan, you look wrong." He hadn't noticed. His skin was grayish, his pupils slightly dilated, even in sunlight. His voice, when he spoke, had a delay, like the words were coming through him. She tried to hug him, but pulled back in horror. "You're cold! You're not breathing!"
As he left, a child from the neighborhood stared at him. She didn't smile, didn't blink. She simply whispered, "You were on my TV last night. You said we belong to the static now." Ethan froze. "Did your parents see it?" She shook her head. "It was only for me. You said I'd forget unless I listened." She handed him a drawing. It was a picture of Ethan, split in half, one side human, the other all circuitry and static.
That night, a package arrived on his doorstep. No return address. Inside, a single VHS tape, unlabeled, covered in moist residue like condensation from something not cold but alive. He played it. The tape showed home footage of his childhood, things never filmed, private memories, moments even he had forgotten. Then the footage shifted. Suddenly, it was him as an adult, sleeping, then melting, slowly liquefying into a pool of noise and static, and out of the pool crawled a copy of him with no eyes. Ethan became convinced the signal wasn't just a sound, it was a location. Not physical, not in space, but mental. A dimension made of memory, frequency, and identity drift. He theorized it like a broadcast field that, once tuned into, reprograms what you are. Every time he heard the signal, he changed. Thoughts disappeared. New ones arrived. He wrote words he didn't understand, saw people who weren't real, felt watched from inside his own skull.
Ethan built a signal jammer. For 1 hour, he cut himself off from all frequency. No radio, no internet, no EM field. For those 60 minutes, he felt peace, silence. Then, precisely at the 61st minute, he screamed, not from fear, from withdrawal. His veins bulged, his skin pulsed. He convulsed like a machine starved of power. The signal wasn't infecting him. It was now powering him.
He returned to his garage and began disassembling all technology. He destroyed every antenna, every drive, every wire. In the silence that followed, he stood in the dark. He smiled. Peace. Then the overhead light flickered. His walls began to vibrate. The destroyed electronics began humming with no power source, and from the shattered screen of an unplugged monitor, a message blinked. "We never needed your tools. We use your mind."
Ethan uploaded one last video, a confession. His eyes were blank, his voice hollow. "This would be my last message. If you're seeing this, it means the broadcast has already entered your perception field. You won't remember hearing it, but you'll dream differently now. You'll find thoughts that aren't yours. You'll begin to broadcast." He leaned close to the camera. "Tell me, can you hear it now?" The screen cut to black, but the audio continued. A soft pulse, a hum, a voice. "You're tuned in."
Not all channels are on the dial. Some are inside you, waiting to be heard. And once you sync with the signal, you are the antenna.
Channel 137 will resume after memory erasure. Estimated time, you already forgot.
The sun vanished at 11:13 a.m. No warning, no forecast, No clouds, just gone, like someone flipped the sky inside out. And when the light returned, nothing was the same.
Ethan had been awake for 70 hours. He no longer trusted sleep. The walls whispered, the mirrors blinked, and his reflection sometimes didn't match. But what broke him came just before noon, a sudden blackout of the sun. Not a normal eclipse. There was no moon, no orbital alignment, just a sky that inverted itself. Color drained from the world. Even sound seemed muffled, as if space itself had thickened. Birds dropped mid-flight. Dogs howled and ran in circles, and Ethan felt something behind his eyes, like something watching through him.
Clocks stopped at 11:13. Phones went dark. Even mechanical watches froze. He checked 4 devices, all frozen. Yet his heart raced faster and faster. Time had stopped for the world, but not for him. Ethan stepped outside. The world looked desaturated, colors drained like an old VHS tape. He passed a woman on the sidewalk, frozen mid-step, mouth open, eyes wide, as if caught in mid-scream. She didn't blink. He touched her shoulder. She crumbled into ash.
Then the clouds moved, but not in the wind. They pulsed like lungs. Every few seconds they inhaled, shrinking inward, then exhaled, spreading like spider veins across the heavens. Each breath brought a new wave of nausea and static to Ethan's head. And a sound emerged. Not thunder, not wind, but a low whisper, not in the air, but inside his bones. You are in the shadow now.
A black mass formed in the sky. Not a craft, not clouds, a shape, smooth, geometric, not obeying the laws of perspective. It rotated and unfolded like an origami made of night. People, the ones who hadn't frozen, dropped to their knees, eyes bleeding. Others pointed and screamed before collapsing. Ethan stood still because the shape knew him. It rotated once more, and from its center, a spotlight of absence descended. Not light, but the removal of light. A hole in reality, and it touched the ground. Where it landed, a man vanished. Not screamed, not burned, just ceased.
The sky shape broadcast a new signal, not in audio, but in vision. Ethan's mind flooded with images. Earth is seen from above, but flickering like a hologram. Cities built and crumbled in milliseconds. Symbols rotating in his retina. Creatures, tall, eyeless, mouthless, reaching out with tendrils of light. He fell to the ground, convulsing. But the images continued, burning themselves into memory. He heard a voice then, not in his ears, but across his entire skin. You are remembered. You are rewritten.
Then it ended. In one blink, the sun snapped back into place. Time resumed, clocks ticking again, birds chirping. But something was off. The light was wrong, slightly green, slightly cold. And the shadows, they no longer matched the objects. Some moved independently. Others were delayed by seconds, like a buffering video. And Ethan realized the eclipse hadn't passed.
It had simply entered.
In the following days, Ethan noticed them, shadowed figures, not quite human. They appeared in reflections, in periphery, in unlit rooms. They never moved when watched directly, but he caught them resetting poses when he blinked. One night, he turned off all lights, closed his eyes, and whispered, "I see you." They whispered back, "We know." He turned on the flashlight, and in that split second, dozens of charcoal silhouettes were frozen in motion, reaching for him. Then they evaporated.
Reports flooded the news. Hundreds had vanished during the blackout. No trace, no explanation. Just empty beds, abandoned shoes, half-eaten meals. Some claimed the sky erased them. Others believed those people never existed at all. Photos of them disappeared, names erased from databases. But Ethan remembered. He could still hear their voices in the signal, now on every radio station, playing underneath normal programming. If you slowed the tape, you'd hear names being recited. Their names.
Ethan had a shadow again, but it wasn't his. It was slightly taller, moved when he didn't, faced the wrong way. One morning, it waved at him with a second hand. He began filming it, but every recording came out corrupted or replaced with footage of him sleeping. Worse, other people started noticing. "Hey, what's wrong with your shadow? Is it smiling?"
Everyone assumed the blackout was a warning, but Ethan knew better. It was a broadcast, the beginning of a new signal, not just in radio waves, but embedded in reality itself. He wasn't the receiver anymore. He was a transmitter. When he closed his eyes, the shape returned, hovering silently above the earth. Each night, it got closer. Each morning, more details vanished from the world. Street names forgotten, colors misremembered, people out of place. Reality was corrupting, and he was part of it now.
The eclipse didn't pass. It nested. In your screens, in your minds, in your language. And next time the sky turns black, don't look up. It might see you back.
What if you remembered something no one else did? What if your life, your past, your identity had been rewritten by something watching you from the dark? And what if you found others like you, but they weren't quite human anymore?
Ethan no longer trusted mirrors, shadows, or his own memories. After the eclipse, the world resumed, but it wasn't the same. People forgot names. Street signs changed overnight. Entire buildings appeared out of nowhere. He began documenting the differences, but each file he saved, each photo, video, or journal entry eventually vanished or changed on its own. One video of the sky glitching during the blackout had been replaced by footage of Ethan sitting alone in the dark, whispering in a language he didn't recognize.
Desperate, Ethan turned to the deep web. There he found a hidden forum, The Ones Who Remember. Password protected, no trace on search engines. Its users spoke in fragmented code. Topics included, "I dream their faces before I meet them. My house resets itself at midnight. I think my daughter was swapped. What color is the sun supposed to be?" One message caught his eye.
I saw the shape too. It didn't choose you. You were always part of it. The user, EX Hollow 32. Ethan replied, "Who are you? What is it doing to us?" A reply came instantly. "Meet me in person. That's the only way to talk now. You're leaking signal."
They met in a decaying motel on the edge of a dead town. Ethan arrived just before sunset. The air smelled like melted plastic and iron. X-Hollow 32 was a woman in her 40s, pale, sunken eyes, several layers of clothing. Her name was Rhea. She had maps, not of places, but of timelines. They looked like veins, fractal branches, circling events that never happened but still left scars. "They've been rewriting reality for decades," she said. "But the eclipse? That was the mass update. Some of us kept fragments, residual memories, errors in the patch."
Rhea showed him VHS tapes, dozens, all labeled with numbers, not titles. She inserted one into a rusty player. The footage showed a hospital room, a man strapped to a bed, screaming in reverse. Suddenly, the screen glitched. The image paused on the man's face. It was Ethan, but older, hair gray, eyes hollow. "That was you," Rhea said calmly, "or will be. The shape moves outside time. It plants ideas, pulls people out, rewrites moments. It's not that you're being watched, it's that you've already been edited."
Rhea introduced Ethan to others in her network. They met in abandoned malls, sub-basements, forgotten subway tunnels, places where reality hadn't fully reloaded. Each remembered something different. One man recalled 4 fingers on each hand as a child, swearing they'd grown a 5th overnight. A woman said her husband disappeared during the eclipse, but now her kids claimed he never existed. A child sketched the sky from memory, but the stars were in impossible constellations, matching no known charts. They all had one thing in common: the feeling that something was wearing reality like a suit.
Rhea explained the real horror. The signal isn't just electromagnetic, it's conceptual, a virus of meaning. It infects language, memory, identity. Once you understand it, it changes you. Ethan checked his arm, where he once had a scar from a childhood bike accident. Now there was nothing. Worse, he found a new freckle, one that pulsed in sync with his heartbeat. Rhea said it was normal. Your memories are being overwritten, one frame at a time.
Rhea warned Ethan. Some people in the group weren't people anymore. Not fully. Some had been touched directly by the shape, left behind, reintegrated into society. They look human, act normal, but their purpose is to monitor signal drift, to identify unstable minds like yours. Ethan became paranoid. He noticed one woman always blinked in perfect rhythm with the ticking light in the hallway. Another man never cast a shadow, no matter the light source. He began sleeping with a knife, but it didn't matter, because they were already inside. One night, Ethan dreamed of his mother. She was cooking in the kitchen, laughing, singing the same lullaby she always sang. Except, he suddenly realized she never sang. She was mute since his birth. He woke up trembling, then checked the family photos. In each one, her mouth was slightly open, and in one photo, her eyes were staring directly at him, not
at the camera, but through the photo, into now. He checked her grave the next morning. It was empty.
Rhea confessed, "We're not survivors. We're carriers. You didn't escape the signal. You're broadcasting it. Your thoughts, your memories, your dreams. That's how it spreads now. You are not Ethan anymore. You're just the latest version." Ethan stared into the motel mirror. His reflection stared back and blinked before he did.
In the final act, Rhea took Ethan to an underground chamber beneath a collapsed observatory. Inside, a wall of CRT monitors, each one showing alternate versions of reality, some peaceful, some devastated, some completely alien. Ethan asked, "What is this place?" "This is the archive," she said, "where the shape keeps its drafts." Some screens showed Ethan's face, but older, scarred, glowing. One showed him floating in space, whispering endlessly. Another showed nothing at all. "One of these is the original," Rhea said, "but we don't know which." And then one monitor turned black. A voice echoed from it. "Hello, Ethan. The ones who remember don't survive. They mutate. They leak. They become transmission points for something beyond comprehension. And next time you forget a name you've always known, ask yourself, was it a memory loss or a memory replaced?" It was never from the stars. The signal didn't come down. It rose up from deep beneath the soil, beneath the oceans, beneath us, and it's still rising. Ethan stared at the wall of screens in the archive. One by one, the monitors began to die, flickering into static, then darkness. Rhea's voice was calm, distant. "The shape is cleaning up, pruning timelines. We're reaching zero." Ethan's mind reeled. "Zero?" "Frequency zero," she clarified. "The original tone, the one that started all of this." She pulled out a worn map, not of terrain, but of depth. Layered strata, bedrock, caverns, marked with notes and symbols that looked like an alphabet, but not of Earth. "It didn't come from space," she whispered. "It was buried, and now it's waking up." The group gathered in an abandoned seismic research station deep in Montana. They had intercepted abnormal signals from a cavern system, frequencies too low for human hearing, but resonant enough to shake teeth loose. On analog tape, the waveform resembled a voice, not speaking, screaming. The more Ethan listened, the more he felt his thoughts begin to echo. He couldn't tell if the sound was entering his ears or being generated from inside his skull. They descended into the earth, past the old mine shafts, past air thick with iron and decay, until they reached a sealed stone tunnel, one not carved by human tools. The walls pulsed faintly, like lungs. No insects, no sound, no time. They passed carvings, not symbols, not art, instructions. One member of the group, Lydia, began speaking in a tongue she claimed she didn't know, words that echoed before her lips moved. The tunnel ended in a spherical chamber, black stone polished to a mirror sheen. In the center floated a humming mass of geometries, a structure that hurt to look at.
It shifted between forms, sometimes a cube, sometimes a lattice of impossible angles, sometimes a mirror of Ethan's own body. Rhea collapsed to her knees. "It's broadcasting," she gasped. "It's been doing it for centuries, whispering into the minds of those above."
The walls began to resonate, emitting pulses that aligned with Ethan's heartbeat. Then faster, then faster, then inside out. The chamber spoke to him, not with sound, but with understanding. He saw visions, a prehistoric human dragging a stone across the ground and carving glyphs identical to those in Rhea's map. A monk in the 1500s painting the eclipse in gold ink, the same configuration Ethan saw days ago. A child drawing spirals in the sand, while shadows moved behind him in daylight. The signal had always been here, just waiting for someone to sink.
Rhea told him about the lost, children born after the eclipse who never cried, who stared too long at dark corners, who spoke in whispers while asleep to things that weren't there. "They are tuned," she said. "They were born under frequency 0. Ethan's thoughts turned to himself. He was born during an eclipse. His mother mute, his father unknown. He looked into the stone and saw something watching back. Not alien, not God, but reflection. It was him, but older, twisted, not human anymore.
Ethan began to feel the pull. His memories dissolved like paper in acid. Who was he? Where was he? He remembered being a child, holding a seashell to his ear and hearing a voice whisper, "We are already beneath you." His hands cracked, veins glowing faintly with light. He screamed, but no sound came out, only vibration, only frequency. Rhea stood by silently, recording it all. She didn't stop him, because this was the reason they came. He wasn't the witness. He was the next host.
One of the others, Ben,
Panicked.
"This wasn't the plan. We weren't supposed to reach the core." He pulled a gun, aimed it at the chamber, but the bullet curved mid-air, stopped, hung, then melted into liquid metal. The chamber didn't allow threats. It rewrote them. Then fell to the floor, his skin pixelated, his body blinked, out of sync with reality, then vanished, leaving only a faint echo of his scream. Rhea turned to Ethan. "This is why containment failed, because it was never outside us."
Ethan saw everything. The shape was not a creature. It was an idea, a sentient, self-replicating concept, born of the earth, older than language, spoken into the rocks by pressure, time, and death. It had waited until a species evolved complex enough to hear it. Then it adapted, spread through myth, religion, whispers, then broadcast, then encoded into digital pulses. It wore forms like clothes: alien, angel, light, monster. Whatever made you look, whatever made you remember.
Ethan collapsed. The chamber darkened, his mind filled with numbers, infinite zeros. Then, one sound, a tone, low, endless.
The original pulse, the first frequency. 0. He screamed, but what came out wasn't a scream. It was the signal, broadcasting through him, through time, through screens, through language. The signal didn't fall from space. It rose up from beneath, from the bones of forgotten civilizations, from the shadows beneath your house, from inside your blood. The next time the wind shifts and you hear a tone with no source, don't cover your ears. It's too late. You've already heard it.
You won't remember him. Not tomorrow, not in a week. Because once the signal passes through you, it takes something with it. And Ethan is almost gone.
The world above had changed. Where once there were stars, now only a dull hum hung in the sky, like the universe itself had flatlined. Ethan stood alone in the Montana desert, but not really standing. He floated, not physically, but in presence. He could feel his atoms disagreeing on whether they still belonged together. The signal isn't something you decode, he muttered. It's something you become.
His face had blurred in every photo. Social records were disappearing. Friends forgetting his name. Family thinking he had died in childhood. He called his sister. Her voice was confused. Ethan? I don't have a brother. Who is this? Even Rhea had begun referring to him as it. You are the pale conduit now. The shape needs a voice. You're its echo.
Ethan stopped dreaming in images, only binary, strings of ones and zeros flashing behind his eyelids. But the binary resolved into faces, people he'd never met, or hadn't yet, or wouldn't now. And somewhere within them, the shape moved, not watching, but listening.
Ethan arrived at a ghost city in New Mexico, Los Perdidos, a place erased from all maps. But it was there, still standing, full of people who didn't exist, each one pale, each one flickering, each one whispering fragments of languages long dead. They welcomed him without speaking, because they had all once been conduits, and he was now their next archive.
In the center of Los Perdidos was a mirror. Not glass, but something more liquid. It breathed, it pulsed, it remembered. When Ethan looked into it, he saw every version of himself that had never existed. One had no mouth, one was a star collapsing, one was just a child humming the signal, and one looked back and said, "I am you before you knew." Reality grew thin. Phones rang with no caller. Mirrors fogged in rooms with no one breathing. Animals stared at walls. And the tone returned. Only now, it wasn't just heard. It was felt. In bone. In blood. In time. And each time someone heard it, something else disappeared. Rhea recorded Ethan's new voice. Not language, not song, but instruction. A pattern so complex that computers refused to store it. They shut themselves down. And yet, it kept playing, through walls, through static, through people. Ethan spoke into a microphone. When the pulse hits 0, you'll all remember what you chose to forget. The sky ripped, not with light, but with absence, a vertical tear above Los Perdidos. Behind it, nothing. No stars, no void. Just the other side of the mirror. From it, pale figures begin to fall, not falling down, falling sideways through space, time, and memory, and the city accepted them. Ethan entered the final chamber, not built by hands, but by pressure, gravity, and forgotten frequencies. There, the shape waited. It did not move, because it was movement. And it whispered, "You are not the message. You are the delivery system. Return home." And Ethan understood. He never left. He had always been part of it, born under the eclipse, born at frequency 0. Rhea walked away from the city, alone. No sign of Ethan, no sign of Los Perdidos, just desert, and a faint ringing in her ears. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a recorder. Empty, no audio, no proof, but a single note scratched onto the casing. "We are the ones beneath." She looked at the sky. The stars were back, but arranged differently, like they were watching, waiting for her to listen.
If you hear the tone, don't record it. Don't follow it. Don't remember it. Because once you do, you become part of the pale conduit. And we already have too many. If you're hearing this, it means the transmission found you. You didn't search for it. It searched for you. And now, it remembers.
Rhea stood at the edge of the desert, watching the dust spin in perfect spirals. The sun hadn't risen in 3 days. Or maybe it had, but light no longer functioned the way it should. She held the broken recorder in her hand, clutching it like it still had a pulse. "He's not dead," she whispered. "He's broadcasting."
People had begun disappearing without reason, not dying, not abducted, just forgotten. Buildings missing from skylines, entire towns blinked out of GPS, names erased from IDs, books, even tombstones. Those who noticed would wake up screaming, unable to recall why. The sky sometimes blinked, a flicker like a bad transmission, like it was buffering. Across the world, reflections stopped sinking. People looked into mirrors and saw versions of themselves not quite right. Older, younger, altered, alien. Some mirrors stopped reflecting altogether. Some began transmitting. Footage of unknown cities, a desert covered in white figures, and in the background, Ethan, standing still, eyes like open wounds. Rhea met with the last surviving cryptologists who hadn't been silenced by the signal. They had decoded a partial pattern. Every 108 years, the signal re-emerged. It was not a message, it was a harvest. "It doesn't want communication," one whispered. "It wants structure, hosts, memory holders." The conduits were just vessels, batteries. Ethan was their final core. The world received one final broadcast. It didn't come via radio, internet, or satellite. It just appeared inside every device, every frequency, every screen. Ethan's voice. "I am the signal beneath. You called into the dark. We answered, and now we echo within you." It wasn't a threat. It was a confirmation. It had already happened. Cartographers began noticing anomalies. Continents drifting, not physically, but in perception. Maps didn't match memories. Satellites showed terrains that didn't exist last month. One official report mentioned a rising landmass in the Pacific in the exact coordinates where Ethan first heard the tone. The name on the satellite feed read Los Perdidos. The pale figures were no longer hiding. They walked highways. They stood motionless in city centers. People saw them, but couldn't describe them. Every camera turned toward them malfunctioned. Every eyewitness gave a different account, but the feeling was the same. I think I know them. Rhea returned to the location of the original dish, only it wasn't there. In its place, a tower of bone-white material humming quietly. At the top, Ethan no longer Ethan. She climbed. Every step, she forgot a memory. Her name, her past, her purpose. But when she reached the top, he looked at her and smiled. You came back to finish the loop. What am I now? She asked. The antenna, the message, the answer. He touched her forehead. The world stuttered.
The world reset, not with fire, not with silence, but with absence. History books emptied, memories rerouted, geography rewritten. But deep within everyone, a static hum remained, the sense that something was missing. A person, a place, a warning. And across the globe, a new broadcast began. In dreams, in thoughts. We are the forgotten, and we are listening.
Somewhere, beneath layers of static and time, a single device kept playing the original signal. Just a frequency. Just a pulse. Repeating forever. In a language no one could speak, but everyone understood. And if you heard it, truly heard it, you'd realize something unbearable. The signal isn't coming. It's already here.
There is no turning it off, no stopping what's beneath, because the signal isn't a sound, it's a presence, a truth that crawled through wires, through minds, through stars, and now it lives in you. The signal beneath. End of transmission. Thank you for listening, or rather, for being heard.